Hi all. Today I will show you the mapping relationship of Spring Boot application. In the last video, I have already discussed about several topics. Now I will show you one another new topic, that is mapping. All of you know that there are several kind of mapping are present in our database, that is one to many to one, and many to many. So these four type of mapping are existing in our DB. So we can achieve those type of mapping from our Spring Boot application also. So let's take an example. Let's see one example called, we have one parent class called employee and another class called address. So in one-to-one mapping, one-to-one, so mapping basically there are four categories. Mapping are four categories: one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, many-to-many. So today I will show you one-to-many and many-to-one. As one-to-one is a very straightforward, suppose for any such as an example called product. Okay, so we have one example from one to one. So let's say take an example one to one. So suppose we have one class called product, where we have product ID, product name. Okay, and we have one more class called buyers, where we have buyers ID, buyers name. Here you can say product detail, product price. Okay, similarly buyer's ID, buyer's name, you can say buyer's contact number, email ID, so on. So here what we can see, if we want to achieve this one-to-one mapping, then what we need to do, we should have one mapping between product column to product table to buyer table. So by matching this product table to buyer table, so in one-to-one what we can do, you can map using via foreign key also. So let's say for we want to fetch the product which has been purchased for any buyer. So what we can do here, we can have one foreign key. So here the product ID is nothing but the pk is nothing but the primary key. Similarly here buyer's ID is nothing but the primary key, and the mapping between these two table should be something called product ID. Okay, so this should be the foreign key. Sorry, FK. Yeah. So this should be the foreign key to map product table to buyer table. Now I would show you. So there is another example which is do one to one and many to one mapping. So basically one to many, sorry, one to many and many to one mapping. So one to many means, so let's say an example for the employee example. So here I took two classes. One is employee, one is address. So if I go to the employee class, in the employee class we have employee ID along with employee name and employee address. So if you look at properly in the employee address, so if I go to the employee address, so address means here I just keeping address ID and city. So let's set example. So I want to fetch all the employee who is belonging from the city of joy, that is Kolkata. So so this kind of mapping is basically one to many mapping or many to one mapping. How, I will show you. So here you can see like that, for employee I want to achieve the employee who is belonging from city of Kolkata. So let's say an example. Here, what I have done, I have taken three fields. One is ID, one is name, and I am giving the private address because here and I am giving it the annotation many to one. So many to one is one of the annotation, and here I am keeping cascade equal to cascade type dot all. So what does mean that cascade? So in that mapping operation, so cascade is basically doing the operation performed to the parent entity will be automatically propagate to the child entity. So whatever you are performing to the parent class, it will directly come and propagate the child class itself. So there are several type of cascade type are present in the database. So currently we are using the all cascade type. So all cascade type basically consists of all other cascade type like persist, remove, detach, refresh. So these kind of other so whenever you are keeping cascade type dot all, it will perform. So whatever the changing you have done in the parent class, it will automatically propagate in the child class. So that's why we are using cascade type equal to all. Okay, so here you can see like that. So why I am giving many to one here? So my achievement is I want to achieve the those employee who is belonging from the city of Jai, that is Kolkata. So that's why for one employee, so so for one city, so let's say Kolkata, in the Kolkata city we can have around 10,000 employee. So among 1 lakh employees. So that's why that's a many to one mapping, because the city is one and the one city is associated with many employees. So that's why it's a many to one mapping. You understand, right? So here this is the employee. So one employee. So one employee means, so suppose I am giving the employee ID, employee name, and address. And in the address, you can see like that there are one thing, that is address ID and city and the list of employee. Why I am keeping like that? Because the one address is associated with list of the employee. Let's say 10 employee, 30 employee, 20 employee, 1,000 employee, whatever the employee I want to add it from the database, those employees should be associated with one city. So that's why here if you see like that, I am keeping here the annotation with many to one. So whenever I am giving many to one, that means the that a particular class it's itself consisting that the class is associated with only one particular address. That means the employee, many employee are associated with one address. So that's why I'm keeping many to one, and I'm giving the cascade type all. The next thing is join column. So there is one more annotation is present, join column. So join column means the column from which you want to join employee table with address table. So if you want to change the name with the join column, so you can give like that address underscore id. Otherwise, whatever the variable you have created from here itself, so by default they will take this as a column name. So if you want to keep the column name as a specific like that for better understanding, so you need to give join column equal to name equal to address. And so this join column means whenever we are trying to add the employee, it will join the column table from employee to address table by using this column address underscore id. Okay, and after that I am keeping normal getter setter method along with the toString method. Same thing I have done for the address class. So the one thing you should keep in your mind, that is whenever we are doing one to many or many to one mapping in one class, we should keep minute, because for many employee are associated with one address. So that's why here I am keeping many to one annotation at cascade type dot all. Here one address are associated with many employee. So that's why here I am keeping one to many. And whenever you are keeping one to many, you need to keep three things. One is cascade equal to cascade type dot all. That means whenever you are iterate or propagate this address class, it will reflect into the child class itself along with the fetch. So what does it fetch class? So basically fetch type, there are two type of fetch are there. One is lazy fetch type, one is eager fetch type. So basically the eager fetch type, it loads all the relationship, but the lazy fetch type, it only fetch the associate entities from the database. So when you are associating for the first time, So this is one of the important things. So for the Java Spring Boot application, so whenever you are trying to create a Spring Boot application by using the mapping relationship, you should use the fetch type dot lazy, because whenever you are doing fetch type dot eager, it will load all the relationship every time, each and every time. But whenever you are doing fetch type dot lazy, it will use the first time whenever you are trying to associate the database. So that's why we are using fetch type dot lazy. And then what we need to do here, I am keeping one more thing, that mapped by address. So here you can see mapped by one column, I am introducing mapped by equal to address. Why I am keeping address? Which address? This address is nothing but this variable. So whatever the variable you are created over here, that variable should be present in the child class also. Otherwise they can't able to map, they can't able to coordinate between these two table. So I'm repeating once again. So whenever you are trying to create one to many or many to one relationship, you should keep in your mind that in one class we have to keep at the rate many to one annotation where cascade type dot all, because whatever the changes we have to done from the parent database, it will reflect in the child entities. Means whatever the changes or propagate we need to do in the parent database, it will propagate the child entities also. And then if whenever we are coming to the child entities, we should give one to many mapping, because one child is associated with many parents. So that's why we are keeping one to many mapping here, where cascade type dot all and fetch equal to fetch type dot lazy, because whenever you are trying to associate the first time, it will fetching the value, otherwise it will not fetch the value. And mapped by equal to address, whatever the variable you have created in the parent class, that variable you should keep in the mapped by value. And what I am giving here, I'm giving private equal to list dot employee. Why I'm giving that list dot employee? Because one address is associated with many employee. So that's why, so whenever you are trying to fetch select star from address class where city equal to Kolkata, you will get lot of details. So one address is associated with many employee. So that's why, so whenever you are trying to fetch like that, so here employee class I have employee id name and then address. In the address class I have address id name, sorry, city, then address id as a fk. So why I am giving list of employee here? So whenever you are searching, select star from address where city equal to Kolkata. So you will get list of employee, let's say around 10, 12, whatever the employee who is belonging from the Kolkata, the list should be coming over there. So that's why I am giving over like that the private list employee. But here I am just giving private address because many employee are assigned one address. So that's why we don't need to create list over here itself. So let's run the so before running the program, I will show you what are, so rest of the thing are common. So if you go to the repository class, so this is the address repository, this is for our employee repository. And if you go to the service class where we are keeping the business logic, so yeah, so here if you see in the business logic, so add address, so what I have done, I have already taking one list of employee, and I am iterated each and the employee, and I am giving the employee details over there, setting up the address and adding over the emp details, because as this employee is basically as a list. And then after setting the employee, what I have done, I am just saving into the repository. Whatever the employee repository is, I'm saving over there itself. So first I take the list of the employee, then I am iterate the employee by getting all the employee details. And then I have the setting up the employee address, because in the employee class we have to set the address, and then we have to add each and every list in the for loop. So after that, what I have done, I have just setting the employee, because in the address class, if you see, this is the address entities. In the address entities, we need to set the employee. And then because and then whatever the employee, say let's say 10, 12, 13,000 employee, you can add using this loop. And then we can add via repository class. Now if I run that program, Java application, you can see a fantastic interesting story here. Look at very carefully here. You can see like the create table address info, address id generated by default as identity, city varchar primary key id, means this id is nothing but the primary key. Similarly, we have created another table called employee info, id integer generated by default as identifier, name varchar, address id integer, primary key id. And the last thing, alter table employee info at constraint foreign key address ID reference address info. Just take a look on this. Why it is coming over here? Because here, if you see in the employee class, employee entities, basically, if you see the employee entities, I am giving join column name equal to address underscore ID. So whenever you are giving join column name equal to address underscore ID, it will create one id, one column called address underscore id, and it will act as a foreign key, and it will map address entity to employee entity. So let's see how the table looks like. So if I check from here itself, if I connect, so here I can see two table. One is address info where id and city is there. One is employee info where id name and address id is there. Now I want to add some employee into one particular address. So as id is auto generated in both the entities, we don't need to keep the id. Okay, so I'm keeping one city called Pune, and I don't want to add two entities. One is two column, one is two employee, basically one is Garfield, one is Bucci. So let's add this one. Sorry, it should be post instead of get. Employee successfully created. Now let me check on this. Select star from, first check with employee, employee underscore info. So here you can see one Garfield address ID 1, two Bucci address ID 1. So what is address ID? Let's check with address. So here you can see address ID equal to ID1 city Pune. So if you take a look on this here, you can see like that in sorry, insert into address info. First I have inserted in the parent class where ID and city, ID equal to, here it is showing null because ID we are passing null from the postman, because ID is auto generated value. And then we are inserting two rows because at one address has associated with multiple employees. So that's why we are keeping over there here list of employees. So here if you see in the address entity, we are keeping list of employee. So if I see like, if you see like that, insert into employee info, and we have inserted these two value. Now I want to add some more employee details into Kolkata. Employee created successfully. Let's check address ID. Here Kolkata, awesome. Employee info, awesome. Here you can see. So address ID here, this address ID is nothing but the foreign key of the address entity. So whenever we are trying to get, so whatever the id 1 and 2, whenever you are trying to get here address info, you will easily understand id 1 equal to Pune, id 2 equal to Kolkata. Now I will show you how I can fetch that one. So if I will do the get method and find address with one. I just want to fetch all the employee details who is belonging from city of joy, that is 2. So here you can find address ID to city Kolkata. But here, if you see like that, I am in that particular console. If I open the repository, sorry, if I open the service class, in the service class I want to print the get all the employees. So here if you select that, there is one more inbuilt method is present for the spring data jpa, that is get by id. So whatever the id we are passing, it will paste the result based on the id. So here I am just system.out.println by get all the employee who is belonging from city of joy. So here you can see employee id 3 name, employee id 4 name. So if I want to search with id 1, so similarly you will get the same thing. Awesome, we got the same thing, right? So that's why, so that's the basically important thing between one to many and many to one mapping. So here address is the parent class, employee is the child class. One address has associated many employee, many employee has access with the one address. So that's why I am keeping here one to many to one mapping. So this is one of the important feature of mapping which we can achieve via spring boot application. So and also I have already given, there are a couple of things, that is um the cascade type, face type. So these kind of, they are, this is one of the one kind of interview question. So whenever they have asked to how you can achieve many to one, how you can achieve, so many to many relationship via spring data jpa. So you don't need to write all those things, you just keep in your mind, you just give these two entities class, that address employee, and from the one address you just keep many to one mapping, because many in the many employees are associated with one address. So that's why we are keeping many to one employee along with the cascade type dot all, and we need to keep the join column. So if whenever you are giving this kind of structure scenario during the your interview round, so they don't need any further clarification on that. So if they just ask, might ask some question from what is cascade type, what is a functionality of this join column, how it will work, or what is many to one, what is one to one. So this kind of question, this kind of syntax you need to keep present whenever you are going for any interview. So today I'm wrapping up over here from this session. So in the next video, I will come up with the transaction, one more important topic, that is transaction. So transaction is one of the important topic nowadays. So we are doing more transaction in all over the field, GPay, phone pay, google pay, online transaction basically. So I will show you what are the benefits and what are the demerits of the transaction. So there are a lot of merits and demerits are present. So what are the merit, if we are not using at the rate transactional, what will happen? If we are using at the rate transactional, what will happen? So in the next video I will show with you. Till then, goodbye.